Blue Horse Theatre 2025.
Welcome, my friends, to the Blue Horse Theatre. Now playing. My friends, let's take a look at the life of Albert French, a great man who lived in Warren County, Ohio, in the later years of his life. For this, we will look at some older publications from the late 1800s into the early 1900s. Thomas John French, Albert's father, born on the 26th of August, 1814 in Hythe, Kent, in England, was the first member of his family line to immigrate to America. Baptized on the 4th of September 1814 at St. Leonard's Anglican Church in Hythe, he lived in Hythe until about 1817, when his family moved to Battle, East Sussex. On the 24th of June 1835, at age 20, he married Anne Neves in Battle, East Sussex, England. In March 1837, Thomas, Anne, and their infant son, James, 11 months old, immigrated to New York on the ship Westminster, along with some members of the Neves family and his brother James. By 1840, Thomas appeared in the Ward 12 census of New York City. This record suggests that his first son James had died by this time, as he is not listed. The census includes Thomas, his wife Anne, their newborn daughter Emma, born 1840, and other relatives. By 1850, the family had relocated to Pendleton County, Kentucky. A pioneer in milk distribution, Thomas established one of the first wholesale and retail milk operations in Cincinnati, which became the foundation for the French Brothers Dairy. Cincinnati was second only to New York in adopting modern dairy marketing methods at the time. Thomas John French lived to the age of 85 and died on the 1st of September 1899 in Clifton, Cincinnati, Hamilton County, Ohio.
Albert had 6 brothers: James, Tilden Russell, Thomas Jr., Algernon Sidney Foster, William Arthur, Ebenezer. He also had 3 sisters: Emma Marie, Matilda, and Sarah. James French, born in March or April 1836 in Hythe, Kent, England. He had emigrated with his parents from London, England, on March 22, 1837, aboard the ship Westminster bound for New York. He died in 1838 in New York City at the age of 2. Emma M. French was born on March 1, 1840, in the Bronx, New York City. She married Thomas John Chapman around 1862 in Cincinnati, Ohio. She lived in Delhi Township, Ohio, and in Clifton, Mill Creek Township, Ohio. She died on June 16, 1928, in Cincinnati, Ohio, at the age of 88. Tilden Russell French was born on 23rd of December 1841 in Columbus, Franklin County, Ohio. When he was a young boy, the family moved from Columbus to Cincinnati by canal boat along the Erie Canal before direct rail service connected the two cities. On 11th of January 1866, in Avondale, Hamilton County, Ohio, Tilden married Mary Ellen Sayers. They had 3 children: Albert S. French, Emma Matilda French, and Frank Edward French, who succeeded his father, Tilden, as president of the French Bower Company, and lived to the age of 99. Tilden spent much of his life in Columbia Township, Hamilton County, and in Cincinnati. He became a prominent businessman through his leadership in the French Brothers Dairy Company, founded by his father, which became one of Cincinnati's foremost suppliers of milk, butter, and ice cream. After the company reorganized as the French Bauer Company, Tilden remained president until his retirement in 1913, when his son Frank took over. In addition to his business work, Tilden served as county treasurer of Hamilton County and was active in Masonic circles, particularly in Hyde Park. He was also a member of the Elks. Tilden died on 23 February 1923 at his home in Cincinnati, aged 81, and was buried in Spring Grove Cemetery. His life spanned a period of remarkable growth for both his city and his family's enterprise. Matilda French was born April 2, 1844, in Clifton, Ohio. She lived in Pendleton County, Kentucky, in 1850. She died August 5, 1862, in Avondale, Cincinnati, Ohio, at the Beech Grove Farm, at the age of 18. Albert French. Albert French was born on 8 April 1846. In 1850, the census recorded him in Pendleton County, Kentucky. By 1860, the family had moved to Mill Creek Township, Hamilton County, Ohio. On 27 July 1870, Albert married Sarah Ella Brown in Avondale, Cincinnati. That same year, the census listed him in Avondale. The couple had 5 children: Arthur Neves French, Charlotte Washburn French, Laura Hildreth French Miller, Clara French Herrick, and Stella French. Albert joined the First New Jerusalem Society of Cincinnati in 1872 at age 26. By 1880, he was living in Oakley, Cincinnati, working as a bookkeeper for his family's dairy enterprise, the French Brothers Dairy Company. He was featured in the American Poultry Journal in June of 1880. In 1900, the census placed him at 2430 Observatory Avenue, Hyde Park Village, Columbia Township, listed as a dealer in dairy products. Albert moved to Lebanon, Warren County, Ohio, where he established the first of 21 creameries and later a pasteurized milk plant that became a model for dairymen and pure food specialists nationwide. Until about 1911, he remained active in dairy management before devoting himself to his model farm, Valley View, known for its cleanliness, advanced dairy practices, and imported thoroughbred cattle. Albert served as vice president and director of the Lebanon National Bank, twice sat on the village council, and was for many years president of the Carthage Fair Association. He was a 32nd degree Mason, past master of Pleasant Ridge Lodge Free and Accepted, Masons, a Shriner, and active in the Church of New Jerusalem. Albert died in Lebanon on 23 February 1916, aged 69, and was buried in Spring Grove Cemetery, Cincinnati. Thomas French, Jr. Thomas French, Jr., Ph.D., was born January 15, 1848 in Cincinnati, Hamilton County, Ohio. Earned his A.B. from Harvard in 1872 before pursuing advanced studies in Germany, where he obtained both his A.M. and Ph.D. from the University of Heidelberg in 1876. Upon returning to the United States, he began his academic career as an assistant in physics at the University of Pennsylvania from 1876 to 1878. He went on to serve as professor of physics and mathematics at Urbana University, Ohio, from 1878 to 1883, and then as professor of physics at the University of Cincinnati, beginning in 1883. Between 1889 and 1890, he acted as consulting electrician for the city of Cincinnati. His published works included the actinic action of non-luminous electric discharges, static electric discharges through rarefied gases, the wave theory of sound, Swedenborg as a man of science, and the elective system in colleges. Born in Pendleton County, Kentucky in 1847, Thomas appeared in the 1850 census there and in the 1860 census in Mill Creek Township, Hamilton County, Ohio. By 1870, he was living in Cambridge, Massachusetts, attending Harvard University. On January 8, 1877, he married Laura Sullivan Hildreth in Hamilton County, Ohio, at the New Jerusalem Church. Thomas and Laura had a daughter, Hilda Mildred French Herrick, who was born in Urbana, Ohio, and died in Sebastopol, California. His career and residences took him from Ohio to New York, then to California, where he spent his later years at El Nido Ranch in Sebastopol. Thomas French Jr. died on May 11, 1936, at age 88 in Sebastopol, California. Algernon. Algernon Sidney Foster French was born on 31st March 1850 in Cincinnati, Hamilton County. That same year, the federal census recorded the infant Algernon with his family in Pendleton County, Kentucky. By 1860, the French family had moved to Mill Creek Township, Hamilton County, Ohio, where they continued to live and work in agricultural pursuits. By 1870, Algernon was living in Cincinnati, and in 1872, at age 22, he joined the First New Jerusalem Society of Cincinnati, a Swedenborgian congregation that several family members attended. In 1878, he married Anna Colesworthy Bunker, with whom he had two daughters, Florence Cameron French and Edith French. The 1880 census places Algernon in Columbia Township, Hamilton County, Ohio, with his occupation listed as dairyman. This was the beginning of his long involvement in the family's dairy business, which would later operate under the name French Brothers Dairy Company. By the turn of the century, Algernon had settled at 2444 Observatory Avenue in Cincinnati's Hyde Park area. The 1902 Williams Cincinnati Business Directory lists him as manager of the French Brothers Dairy Company, working alongside his brothers, Tilden R. French, president, and Albert French, secretary and treasurer, with Thomas J. Chapman, brother-in-law, as vice president. The company operated its main office and retail depot on West 7th Street and maintained numerous branch stores throughout the city, selling milk, ice cream, and other dairy products. Algernon remained at his Observatory Avenue residence for the rest of his life, appearing there in the 1900, 1910, 1920, and 1930 censuses. He died at home on 14 October 1930 at the age of 80 and was buried in Spring Grove Cemetery. William Arthur French was born on 8th February 1852 in Newport, Campbell County, Kentucky. By the 1860 census, William was living with his family in Mill Creek Township, Hamilton County, Ohio. A decade later, the 1870 census placed him in Cincinnati. In 1875, at age 23, he joined the First New Jerusalem Society of Cincinnati, a Swedenborgian congregation attended by several members of the French family. That same year, he worked at French and Tucker Pork Packers with Manning P. Tucker. On 27 February 1877, William married Louisa M. Scholhammer. The couple made their home in Cincinnati, where William's occupations varied over the years. In the 1880 census, he was recorded living on Ludlow Avenue, Cincinnati, working as a butcher. By 1890, William was living on Jefferson Avenue at West Nixon Street in Cincinnati, where he worked as a caterer. His later career brought him back into the family's agricultural and dairy-related enterprises. In the 1910 census, he was living at 1637 Pullen Avenue, Cincinnati, and working in the family dairy business. William Arthur French died on 19th of February 1913 in Cincinnati at the age of 61. He was buried in Spring Grove Cemetery. Ebenezer French, born and died before 1860 in childhood. Sarah French, also born and died before 1860 in childhood.
The 1850 census shows the young French family in Pendleton, Kentucky. And by 1860 to Mill Creek Township, Hamilton County, Ohio. A map of Avondale from the David Rumsey Map Collection, dated 1869, shows the name Thomas French and a dairy near the southwest part of the Cincinnati Zoo and Biological Gardens. Another lot owned by Thomas French on Ridgway Street, now Ridgway Avenue, is shown on the eastern part of Avondale, near where I-71 is now. We find in the 1869 Titus Atlas of the townships Hamilton County, a directory on page 79. French, Thomas and Sons, proprietors of the Washington Dairy, Avondale, Clifton and Delhi, residence Avondale. On the 27th of July 1870, when he was 24, Albert French married Sarah Ella Brown. Albert and Sarah joined the New Jerusalem Society of Cincinnati in 1872. The couple had 5 children: Arthur, Charlotte, Laura, Clara, and Stella. Albert and Sarah were married 45 years until his death in 1916. Sarah died on the 24th of May, 1930, at age 80. Let's take a look at the memorial, souvenir edition of the outline history of the New Jerusalem Church, from the beginning of the society in 1811 to the year 1903. The new church, or Swedenborganism, can refer to any of several historically related Christian denominations that developed under the influence of the theology of Emanuel Swedenborg, 1688-1772. The Swedenborgian tradition is considered to be a part of Restorationist Christianity. His father Thomas had been a member since 1849. The membership list shows most of the French family as members, including children who also joined as they came of age, as well as the Chapmans. The Chapmans were the family of Albert's older sister Emma, who married Thomas John Chapman. In the spring of 1885, Albert's younger brother, Dr. Thomas French Jr., who had attended Harvard, was elected superintendent of the Sunday school, an office which he held continuously for 17 years. In May 1889, Professor Thomas French Jr. was elected president of the New Jerusalem Society, which office he continued to hold until the fall of 1901. 1903, a new church is built at Oak Street and Winslow Avenue in Walnut Hills. It is named the New Jerusalem Church. It contains 7 Tiffany-designed windows, a gift from a sister church, each depicting one of 7 angels. (1968), Oak and Winslow Church taken by the city for freeway construction. A new church is built on East Kemper Road, between Weller Road and West Loveland Avenue in Sims Township, now the city of Montgomery. The church is named Kemper Road Swedenborgian Church. The census of 1880 shows Albert living in Columbia Township in the Oakley precinct of Cincinnati, Ohio, and listed as bookkeeper. We notice that Albert's wife, Sarah Ella Brown French, is using her middle name Ella in the census instead of her first name Sarah. Also, Charlotte is going by the nickname Lottie. Albert is now 34 years old. His wife Ella is 32. His son Arthur is 9. His 4 daughters are Charlotte with the nickname Lottie is 7, Laura 5, Clara 3, Stella a 1-year-old baby. June 1880.
Fiat justitia ruat caelum. In English, let justice be done though the heavens fall.
American Poultry Journal and Record, Volume 11, Number 6, Chicago, Illinois, June, 1880. Devoted to the breeding and management of purebred poultry, pigeons and pet stock. C.J. Ward, Editor and Proprietor.
Among those who have stepped to the front as breeders of purebred poultry, in the last few years, no one has taken higher rank or been more uniformly successful than the subject of our illustration given on this page, Albert French, Esquire, of Cincinnati, Ohio. And it affords us pleasure to give our readers an opportunity to see what manner of a man Mr. French is. The portrait is an excellent one, and one that will be immediately recognized by all who have seen Mr. French. We have, owing to Mr. French's modesty and disinclination to talk about himself, not been able to get at much concerning his early history, so we'll have to confine ourselves to a few facts. Mr. French was born in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1846, and is now just in the prime of life, and being large and robust in health, has, we trust, a long life before him. Mr. F says he caught the hen fever some years ago on seeing a fine trio of dark Brahmas. And although he has bred almost every variety of fancy fowls since then, he has discarded them all but his two first loves, and now breeds only dark Brahmas and Plymouth Rocks, which two varieties he says his own experience has proven to be the best, all things considered. These two varieties Mr. French has bred with great care, having added fresh blood from the very best yards and obtained the finest specimens regardless of expense. For being a gentleman of fortune, he can afford to and thus pay any price that is demanded for a bird when he wants it. The record his birds have made in the exhibition room at the largest and best shows held in America attests the excellence of his stock. So we need not mention it further than to say that Mr. French breeds his birds in such a way that it is impossible for any mixture or contamination of blood to occur, as he is engaged very extensively in the dairy business. His birds are bred on separate farms, no two kinds ever by any chance coming together. In regard to his dairying business, Mr. French has, with his father and brother, the largest dairy farm in Ohio, having over 300 cows alone. And using steam power, they do all their own grinding and cooking food for their cattle. Also, their churning, etc. Of course, such a superabundance of just the right kind and best of foods milk and ground-cooked food must result in benefit to his fowls, so that Mr. French's birds live in clover so far as good feed is concerned. And having unlimited range, they are perfectly healthy. All these advantages give size and stamina to his birds, which makes Mr. French a hard one to beat in the showroom, as his birds come to the show in magnificent trim. Mr. French is the president of the Cincinnati Poultry Association, also a vice president of the American Poultry Association, and is a gentleman that the poultry fraternity should and does feel proud of counting among its members. He has hosts of friends wherever he is known, and so far we have never heard of an enemy or a word reflecting on his honor. And we are sure we only echo the heartfelt wish of hundreds who know him when we say, long may he live and prosper.
Williams Hamilton County Directory for 1889. Scarce antique lithographed folding map of Cincinnati, Ohio, issued by local publisher C.S. Mendenhall in 1889. We see in the Williams Directory of 1889 for Hamilton County many people with French for a last name. Albert is shown to be in Columbia Township in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Cincinnati. However, Hyde Park had not been formed yet, nor officials elected until 1896, which will be shown in the 1900 census. Emma is listed, but she is in College Hill, Mill Creek Township. Lottie is also in College Hill. In 1889, Albert was 43 years old. Emma, his wife, was 44 years old. Arthur, the oldest child, was 18 years old and is listed in Columbia Township. Lottie, 17 years old. Laura, 15 years old. The youngest, Stella, 10 years old. Laura and Stella were not listed in the directory as children. Listed under the French last name in the directory are French brothers, importers and breeders of thoroughbred Holstein Friesian cattle. Edwards Road, Columbia Township. Post Office Box 809, Cincinnati. Thomas French and Sons Dairy. Edwards Road, Columbia Township. Post Office Box 809, Cincinnati.
Special notice. Special notice. Special notice. Special notice. Special notice. Special notice. Light. Special notice. Special notice. Special notice. Harveysburg. Beech Grove. Red Lion. Special notice. Waynesville. Oregonia. Special notice.
Chad, what is going on?
Oh, hi. Didn't see you there, sir. I saw this button and I thought I would, push it. Well, I'm new and I was trying to find my new supervisor, so I don't know his name.
Okay, Chad. Be careful with the recording equipment, young man. Maybe you should work in the art department. Have you ever thought about it?
Oh, sir. That is a grand idea. What does this other button do then?
Special notice! Farmers are requested to attend a meeting at the Township House, Waynesville, on Saturday, November 5th for the purpose of establishing a skimmer station of the French Brothers Creamery. A representative of the above firm will be present to explain the business. It is a matter between Germantown and Waynesville, which gets it. The community which furnishes the greatest number of cows will get the skimmer. Yeah. Albert French of the French Brothers Dairy Company will meet the farmers of Wayne Township in the Township House in Waynesville on Saturday, November 5th at 2 p.m. to arrange for a branch skimmer station at Waynesville. This will be in connection with the Lebanon Creamery. A branch will either be established at Waynesville or Germantown. The one furnishing the largest number of cows will get the station. Now people whoop it up and show your enterprise. Mr. John Gould of the Western Reserve, a prominent dairyman and writer on dairy subjects, will address the farmers of Waynesville Saturday, November the 5th. He is an eminent authority on matters pertaining to this important industry, and especially on silos and silage and the care and selection of cows and kindred subjects. Every farmer should attend this meeting whether they intend patronizing the skimmer station or not.
The Census of 1900. This census shows Albert living Hamilton County, Columbia Township in Hyde Park. Albert is listed as a dealer in dairy products. Albert is now 54 years old, and his wife is also 54 years old at this time. His son and oldest child, Arthur, has moved to Lebanon, Ohio, and is now 29 years old. Lottie, or Charlotte, is now 27 years old. Laura is 25 years old, and Clara is 22 years old. Sadly, Albert's youngest daughter, Stella, passed away at the age of 18 years old in 1897. We are in the lobby of the Blue Horse Theatre, enjoying a hot beverage, waiting for a young fellow I would like you to meet. Today, the Blue Horse Theatre would like to welcome our new intern, Chad, who has been working in the art department. Hello, Chad. Could you introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. My name is Chad McGeepity, and I'm the new intern here at Blue Horse Theatre. I work in the art department because I can colour a bit, so I try to colour in the lines and make the old photos look a bit better and such. My mum always likes the stuff I made her in school, so...
Very good, Chad. We are glad you are here. What was your last name again?
Yes, sir. The name is Mick G. P.T., so... that is what they named me then. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity, sir. To be working in the lovely theatre is a joy. My mum's really glad I'm colouring pictures instead cavorting around with me mates and such. So, I wanted to show you this one I did of a man with his horse and milk cart. It's lovely, but I can barely see what it says. Well, the girl in the recording booth, I don't know her name, but she said to the art guy, I don't know his name. Give it to Chad McGeepity and he can fix it.
I see. That is quite a change. I can't help it, Chad, but your name, McGeepity, is new to me. However, please be careful with the photos, young man. Do you have any more examples?
Yes, sir. I got this other guy, yeah. Also a horse, a guy, and a dag. So, Dag, do you like dags? But this guy, yeah, he has ice cream and oysters, so it might be Mr. Del Favero, see? So then they are all by a pond somewhere, and if I could say, sir, stuff on that cart looks expensive.
Yes, Chad, I do like dags. But who is this Mr. Del Favero? Did you go back in time, Chad? Ha 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 ha.
Ha 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 ha. Good one, sir. The research department found a court case in the Ohio Nisi Prius reports. The court case is imitation of an established commercial name. Common Pleas, Court of Hamilton County. The French Brothers Dairy Company versus John Giachen decided May 9th, 1909. Giovanni Giachen worked for Mr. Del Favero, as he is named in the case. Turns out Mr. Giachen wanted to call his business the French Ice Cream Company because he used French pots. The French brothers sued. So, the judge wouldn't go for it and made Mr. Giachen change it. Everything eventually turned out as the guy is found later in the Cincinnati Directory in 1910. Fancy ice cream? Isn't that a grand name, sir? Giovanni Giachen, proprietor, manufacturer of ice cream and fruit ices. 2603 Vine and 2847 Woodburn Avenue. I've got another one for you, sir. This one has a horse and a cart, but there is no guy or any dags, so... But it probably has ice of some sort and a bit of cream and milk.
Well done, young man. I understand you have more pictures for us of the old French Dairy Company, so I will let you get to it, Mr. McJeepty. I see, you like disco.
Disco? Oh yeah, that's great crack. I do like it, but it's not my department, so... Sorry sir, but you must speak to the sound or music department to change it. I don't know the guy's name though.
Let's see what is going on in 1903. The Centennial Atlas of Warren County, Ohio, Lebanon, Ohio. The Centennial Association. Publishers, 1903. Important events in the history of Warren County, Ohio, arranged in chronological order. By Josiah Morrow, author of History of Warren County, Ohio. Life of Thomas Corwin, Centennial Sketch of Lebanon, etc.
French Brothers Creamery. About 1898, French Brothers, the well-known Cincinnati Dairymen, established a creamery at Lebanon, buying milk from the farmers at so much per pound for the butter fat it contains, this amount being determined by scientific test. This plan of dairying quickly became popular with the farming community, and so continues. Messrs. Albert French and son Arthur, who have charge, have spared no expense to keep the plant equipped with the most modern machinery of every kind needed in the manufacture of high-class butter, and consequently have now one of the best creameries to be found anywhere. Skimming stations have been established at several other places in the county at the urgent request of the farmers. The cream from these stations is either hauled to Lebanon and made into butter or shipped to Cincinnati to supply the trade there. The growth of this business has been truly wonderful, and a very large sum of money has been invested by the owners. This industry has been of great value to the farmers of Warren County by making a good market for milk. In the fall of 1902, a large dairy barn was built at Lebanon, scientific and hygienic plans being strictly observed throughout its construction. A large herd of thoroughbred cows are kept here. The output is known as certified milk, and for which there is a large and increasing demand. Throughout the county are numerous small factories, mills, and shops not specifically mentioned in these paragraphs. There is now a general indication that the next decade will witness some important accessions to the list of Warren County industries.
residence of Mr. and Mrs. Albert French, Floraville, Lebanon.
Introduction. During their many years of experience in handling milk, French brothers realized the necessity of producing a grade of milk perfectly pure and absolutely free from bacteria to meet the requirements of the nursery and sick room. Yielding to the importunities of physicians and others interested in securing a grade of milk which could be recommended, this firm built and equipped at Lebanon a strictly sanitary dairy. Many prominent physicians have journeyed here to inspect this model establishment with a view of ascertaining if its management and method employed would justify an unqualified endorsement of the milk produced. These gentlemen have, without exception, been unstinted in their praise of the establishment and, after repeated bacteriological tests, gladly certify to the purity of this milk and insist upon its use in cases under their care. The necessity of certified milk. Milk drawn from a clean and healthy cow is naturally sterile or free from foreign bacteria, and when retained in this condition forms an ideal food. Lister, Meissner, Duclos, and other scientists have shown that such milk will remain unchanged for all time if it is carefully protected from all bacterial infection. The ordinary changes in milk are due to the action of bacteria, which are everywhere present, and gain access to the milk through its exposure to the air. The principal change in milk, due to the action of bacteria, is the conversion of milk sugar into lactic acid, commonly called souring. This development begins at once, but is not perceptible to the taste until a certain percentage of acid is reached. And while this imperceptible acidity is not injurious to an adult, it is often harmful to invalids and children. Nature has ordained that the child should receive its milk direct and without exposure to the air. Where this is not possible, cow's milk is not entirely satisfactory unless it can be obtained free from germs, due to uncleanliness from exposure. Since the milk, when drawn from a sound udder, is absolutely sterile, French brothers' efforts are directed toward protecting it from infection while being handled in the dairy and creamery. The handling of the milk. The most important feature in the production of certified milk care and handling. Every known means is employed to ensure cleanliness and avoid dust. Before milking, each cow is sprayed. Her udder and flanks are washed and wiped with a damp cloth. The men are required to put on clean suits and caps of white muslin immediately before milking, and to wash their hands before milking each cow. The milking is done with dry hands, through absorbent cotton which acts as a strainer. The milk is carried into a separate room to be again strained into cans, and is immediately removed from the barn to the dairy building by means of a rapid overhead tramway. At the dairy building, it is strained for a third time into a small tank, which furnishes an even supply to the cooler, where the temperature is rapidly lowered to 40 degrees. From the cooler, it is quickly bottled. These bottles are then parked in ice and immediately shipped to the city. All pails, cans, bottles, coolers, and tanks are thoroughly cleansed after each milking. They are then placed in a large steel sterilizing oven and subjected to a high steam pressure, where they remain while not in use. The method of production. Selection of cows. In the production of perfect milk, the object, of first importance, is the selection of the cows, both as to their health and their fitness. The cows must be free from all diseases, especially tuberculosis. Before being purchased, they are subjected to the tuberculin test, which reveals the slightest trace of tuberculosis. Care has been taken to select a herd that will produce a uniform quality of milk, not too rich in butterfat, but of a composition as nearly as possible like human milk. Regarding the percentage of butterfat, there is very little difference between the milk of the average grade cow and human milk, but the milk of such breeds as the Jersey and the Guernsey contain an excessive amount of fat. After careful consideration, a herd of good-grade Holsteins and grade Durhams has been selected as being in all respects the best qualified for the purpose. Feeding. To produce milk to meet the requirements of the certified article, it is essential that the cows should be fed a balanced ration of specially selected foods, and that their food should be free from noxious weeds. These conditions cannot be found in any pasture, for no pasture can be kept free from weeds. The system of a cow requires an abundance of succulent food. Since grass is denied, some other form of succulent forage must be provided. The difficulty is solved by the use of corn ensilage and certain soiling crops such as green oats, green corn fodder, sorghum, alfalfa, and green clover in connection with concentrates. In order to prevent dust in the barn, all feeding is done after milking. Dry and dusty foods are sprinkled before being fed. The milking hours are so arranged that the milk can be shipped by express without delay and reach the city within 2 hours after milking. The barn. Before preparing plans for the model dairy at Lebanon, a qualified representative of the firm made a tour of the east and west, visiting the leading modern dairies of note, comprising, among others, those of several leading state universities, such as Cornell and the universities of Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, and Ohio. While some of these dairies may be considered more elaborate exteriorly, the dairy building of the French Brothers Dairy Company at Lebanon is second to none in interior construction and from a sanitary standpoint. The barn is large with wide gangways, giving each cow plenty of cubby space for fresh air. After having given the question of ventilation particular study, the system patented by Professor King of the University of Wisconsin was adopted. The fresh air is admitted through ventilators placed near the ceiling, and the foul air taken out through registers placed near the floor. Many large windows have been provided, and with a southern exposure, the barn has an abundance of sunlight, being bright on the darkest day. All floors and mangers, stalls and stanchions are of cement and iron. All side walls and ceilings are of cement and wood pulp plaster, there being no joists or rafters to collect dust. The method used for cleaning the barn and collecting the refuse is particularly commendable. Beneath the barn, a basement room constructed of cement contains large steel hoppers into which all gutters drain. These dump mechanically into a wagon and are cleaned twice daily, all refuse being carried to distant fields. Means have been provided for the entire rooms and the 2 large silos for the curing and storing of corn and silage. At the west end is situated a small room fitted for weighing and sampling the milk in order to keep a record of each individual cow. Also, a modern sanitary lavatory for use of the men in preparing for milking. At a remote distance is situated a quarantine building where all cows are held during a period of examination before being admitted to the herd. A dairy building 600 feet from the barn is equipped with airtight coolers, bottling machinery, wash sinks, sterilizing ovens, etc. Care of cows. Before being admitted to the herd, all cows are closely clipped and thoroughly scrubbed, which process is repeated at regular intervals. The daily care of the cow consists in thorough cleaning and carding, abundant and regular feeding, and bedding day and night with clean straw and shavings. During pleasant weather, the cattle are turned out to exercise into lots and sheds. Means are provided for watering in the barn, where purest water is supplied in abundance from a gravel well free from all contamination.
My friends, we are now to the part where Albert and his family are found in Warren County, Ohio. The 1910 census. Albert is now living in Lebanon, Turtle Creek Township, in Warren County, Ohio, with his wife Sarah and daughter Charlotte. His is listed as proprietor of a dairy farm. On 1914, Cincinnati, the Queen City, newspaper reference book, published by the Cuvier Press Club, Cincinnati, Ohio, 1914. Albert and Tilden have retired by 1914 and have left the company in the good hands of Tilden's son, Frank French, and the next generation. Albert can now focus more on the Valley View Farm in Lebanon, in Warren County, Ohio. The company is now called the French Brothers Bauer Company, and they are well placed to enter the new century. French Brothers Bauer Company. Bakers and dealers in cream, milk, butter, ice cream, etc. The French Brothers Bauer Company is a corporation with $1 million capitalization, organized under the Ohio laws. The company acquired all of the properties and going business of French Brothers Dairy Company and the Bauer Ice Cream and Baking Company, and has 2 modern ice creameries, having the capacity to manufacture 10,000 gallons of ice cream and 150 tons of ice per day. With stable properties containing an equipment of over 300 horses and 200 wagons. Besides properties in the country within a radius of 40 miles in 23 towns, used for the purpose of receiving and handling milk from hundreds of small farms, including the most complete and sanitary dairy farms in the United States, located at Lebanon, Warren County, Ohio, and 3 new milk plants for making condensed milk. The company serves milk to 25,000 families in Cincinnati, Covington, Newport, and their suburbs. It also has an extensive trade in creamery butter, casein powder, and other byproducts. Frankie French is president, Julius H. Bauer, vice president, Harry N. Chapman, treasurer, John J. Schmidt, secretary, Frank Cryer, assistant secretary and treasurer, T. Russell Chapman, general superintendent. The Western Star, printed every week since July 4th, 1806, 110th year, number 36, March 2nd, 1916. Lebanon, Ohio. Headline: Answers Final Call. Albert French, highly respected citizen, peacefully dies after lingering illness.
Albert French, obituary. Wednesday, 23rd of February, 1916, 10 p.m. After an illness of several weeks, Albert French, 69 years old, stockholder and formerly active member in the French Brothers Bauer Company, died at his residence here last Wednesday evening at 10 o'clock. For the last 15 years, Mr. French has made his home in Lebanon. Prior to that time, he was a resident of Cincinnati, where he is well known in business circles. He was for many years president of the Carthage Fair Association and was also a member of all the leading stock breeders' associations. He was a brother to Tilden R. French, former treasurer of Hamilton County, and to Algernon S. French, Thomas French, and Mrs. Thomas J. Chapman, all of Cincinnati. Mr. French was born on his father's farm near Butler, Kentucky, 69 years ago. The family moved to near Cincinnati when he was but a boy, and since that time, Mr. French and his brothers have been actively engaged in building up the business, which bears their name. In 1900, Albert French came to Lebanon and established the first of a series of 21 creameries. Later, he established the pasteurized milk plant, which has made Lebanon a place of interest to dairymen and pure food specialists from all over the United States. Until 5 years ago, he was active in this business, after which he retired to devote himself to the management of his model farm, Valley View, which lies just outside of Lebanon. Mr. French was vice president of the Lebanon National Bank and also a member of its board of directors. He served 2 terms on the village council and was always prominent in civic affairs. He was an importer of thoroughbred cattle and made several trips to Europe in his efforts to obtain the best stock to be had. As a dairyman, Mr. French was noted for his love of thoroughbred stock and for a desire for cleanliness about the farm, which was almost to an obsession. His ideas were far in advance of his time, and Valley View Farm is looked upon as one of the model farms of the country. He was also noted for the number of young men whom he met in business, and for the fact that he was never too busy to devote time to helping the young men whom he came in contact. Mr. French was a 32nd degree Mason and was for several years past master of the Pleasant Ridge Lodge, free and accepted Masons. He was also a Shriner. He and his family are members of the Church of New Jerusalem, Swedenborden, of which he was an active member until the time of his death. He is survived by a widow, a son, Arthur N. French, manager of the Cincinnati Creamery department of the French Brothers Bower Company, and 3 daughters, Mrs. Wallace Miller, Mrs. Ray Herrick, and Miss Charlotte French of Lebanon, Ohio. Footnote: Albert's daughter, Stella, died in Denver, Colorado on November 28, 1897, at the age of 18. End of footnote. His brothers, Tilden R. French, former treasurer of Hamilton County, Algernon S. French, Cincinnati, and Professor Thomas French, formerly of the University of Cincinnati, who is residing on his fruit farm in California, and a sister, Mrs. Thomas Chapman of Cincinnati, and a host of relatives and friends. Footnote: Albert's brother, William Arthur French, died 3 years earlier on February 19, 1913 in Cincinnati. End of footnote. Funeral services were held from his late residence in Lebanon on Saturday morning, Reverend Hake of the New Jerusalem Church officiating. Mayor Harry Engelhart of Norwood presented the Scottish Rite Ring to his son, Arthur N. French, at the chapel at Spring Grove Cemetery, Cincinnati. Interment in Spring Grove. Both Lebanon National Bank and Citizens National Bank were closed Saturday morning out of respect to Mr. French, who was a director in the former at the time of his demise.
Memoirs of the Miami Valley, Volume 2. Chicago. Robert O. Law Company. 1919. Let's go to page 353. Agriculture. Warren County Farms. The French Dairy Farm. Creamery at Lebanon. Valley View Farm. A model dairy farm.
The French Dairy Farm, beautiful for location. Resting in the heart of one of the richest valleys in Warren County is Valley View Farm, the home of the famous French dairies, that for excellence and purity of product are celebrated throughout the Middle West. The story of the establishment of the splendid milk stations of this company is a tale of men seeing the gate of opportunity opening widely and hastening to enter in. The father of the present proprietor of Valley View Farm was a dairyman residing near the city of Cincinnati. His sons, engaged in the same business, with the quick perception of younger manhood, realized that the size of the city demanded more modern methods of supply, and that a regular system of distribution must be established. So they consolidated their interests, distributing not only their own products, but also that of other dairymen. Butter and cream were in constant demand by their city patrons, and it was seen that there must be a larger source of supply, and it was decided to obtain that source from a greater radius of territory. Knowing the richness of the Miami Valley, that its grass would furnish a never-failing supply for an illimitable number of cows, the farmers around Lebanon were asked to assist in furnishing the milk supply by guaranteeing cows enough to supply a creamery or milk station that the French brothers intended to establish at Lebanon or in its vicinity. The farmers took time to consider the proposition. Apparently, it seemed a risk to change the rich yields of grain and tobacco which those fields represented into a lot of filled milk cans, but finally consented to convert the fertile grainland into grassy meadows. The experiment was a success, and in several years nearly all of the country south and west of Lebanon, except in the vicinity of Franklin, were beautiful pasture fields, dotted with herds of sleek, contented, sleepy-eyed jerseys that are lining the pockets of their owners with bills as green as the grass of the pasture. The profit was good and always certain, and the farmers could rejoice also that the hard work connected with the raising of grain was eliminated. In a short time, the French brothers were besieged with requests from farmers in adjoining counties to establish creameries or milk stations in their region of the country. This in time was done, and the French brothers' creameries, or milk stations, are now in operation at Blanchester, Blueboard, Brookville, Clarksville, College Corner, Coserdale, Fairfield, Farmersville, Germantown, Harveysburg, Lebanon, Loveland, Lynchburg, Martinsville, Morrow, Oregonia, Springboro, Waynesville, and Wilmington, 19 in number, all this side of the Ohio River, the majority of them located in the Miami valleys, and fully as many, if not more, in Kentucky and Indiana, situated in localities near to Cincinnati. The creamery at Lebanon was established in the year 1898, and 4 years later, Valley View Farm, comprising about 251 acres, was purchased by the French brothers, and preparation immediately started to make it the model dairy farm of the Miami Valleys, if not of the United States. Although owning several other large farms not very remote from Valley View, the latter is the favorite farm of the present proprietor. for the recent death of Mr. Albert French left his brother, Mr. Arthur French, sole proprietor and manager of this immense dairy business.
We at Blue Horse Theatre would like to mention the following. Albert's brother, William Arthur French, died February 19, 1913, and Memoirs of the Miami Valley was written in 1919. We are convinced that this is an error and that the Arthur, the article, is referring to Albert's son and not his brother. Albert's son, Arthur Neves French, is most likely the new beneficiary. According to French Family Association chart number 205, quote, he was a proprietor of his grandfather's creamery in 1900 at age 29, unquote.
Sole proprietor and manager of this immense dairy business. Mr. Arthur French has a beautiful residence in Floraville, the aristocratic suburb of Lebanon, and it takes but a few minutes for his automobile to convey him to Valley View, where nearly all of his time is spent in overseeing the plant. Naturally, the chief point of interest at Valley View Farm is the immense barn built with 3 wings, all centering at one point. As a visitor looks from the wide passageways into the interior of the great structure, the cleanliness, brightness and cheery air of the place is at once observed. The walls are of cement and wood pulp plaster, the floors of cement and iron. No joists or rafters in evidence, for they are dust gatherers and the whole place is immaculately clean. Before each line of cows runs a great cement trough the whole length of the room, from which they eat their generous rations of alfalfa and ensilage. When the meal is over and they begin to enjoy their after-dinner cigar in the shape of a contemplative cud, pure water pours through the trough, washing the remnants of the feed down into great hoppers in the cement basement. These receptacles mechanically dump the refuse into cars which run smoothly along tracks to the exterior of the building, from whence the waste is carried to the cornfields and carefully spread over the ground for the purpose of enriching the soil, thus keeping it up to the desired degree of fertility. The trough from which the cows have been fed are kept full of running water until the next feeding hour. The feed rooms of the dairy are at the east end of the barn, and near them stand 2 large silos, each capable of containing 190 tons of ensilage. That these great receptacles for storing green fodder for winter use are regarded by Mr. French as an important feature of the dairy business is plainly evident, as 8 other silos are distributed on the other dairy farms. The room where the milk is weighed and sampled is at the west end of the barn, for a daily record is kept of the milk of each individual animal. The wonderful cleanliness of the dairy is proof positive of the purity of the milk sold to thousands of customers who refuse to have any other than that which comes from the French dairies. The cleanliness begins immediately after the purchase of the cow. Before an animal is permitted a place in the herd, it is closely clipped and scrubbed until it fairly glows, a process frequently repeated. It is then taken for close examination to a quarantine building that stands quite a distance from the barn and held under careful surveillance until full satisfaction is felt that it is sound in every particular. Daily, every cow in the herd passes through the operation of cleansing and carding, and fresh, clean beddings of shavings are spread both night and morning for the comfort of the gentle creatures, who lazily roll their placid eyes towards the visitor, as if desiring to ask, "Don't you envy us?" The cleanliness exercised towards the products of the French dairies is most scientific in method. The milk furnished from Valley View Farm to the general trade is known as inspected milk. This milk which comes under the frequent scrutiny of a milk commission working under the rules of the Cincinnati Academy of Medicine. This inspection is most rigid. Science has discovered that milk, freshly drawn from the cow, is a magnet for millions of bacteria which produce rapid fermentation in the lacteal fluid, which it is claimed by medical authorities are harmful to the human body, producing serious attacks of fever. It is also claimed by wise investigators that 1 million bacteria can find board and lodging in a cubic centimeter. And as a centimeter is only the 100th part of a meter, equal to 0.3937 of an inch, one could most easily swallow several good-sized colonies of bacteria in drinking a tumbler of milk that has been exposed to the atmosphere. The inflexible system of watchful care exercised in the care of milk at Valley View Farm. The insistent scrupulousness demanded of every employee in everything affecting both animals and products, as well as environment, has resulted in the French dairies placing on the market inspected milk that contains but 60,000 bacteria to the cubic centimeter, nearly pure milk. Certified milk, which is purchased chiefly by hospitals and for the use of small children, rightly commands a higher price than is given for inspected milk. For even greater care is observed in its preparation for customers, and it is almost absolutely free from all bacteria. The rules laid down for the milkers are as unyielding in required observance as the laws of the ancient Medes and Persians are said to have been. When the milking hour arrives, each man dons a clean suit and cap of a white muslin and carefully washes the flanks and udder of the cow with a damp, sterilized cloth. Then, after a thorough cleansing of his hands, which must be entirely dry before beginning the milking process, the employee draws the milk through absorbent cotton, which acts as a strainer. The milk is hurried into a separate room and strained into cans, which are at once carried by an overhead tramway to the bottling station, where it is again strained into a small tank from which an even supply flows to a cooler, where the temperature of the milk is rapidly lowered. It is then speedily bottled, packed in ice, and is ready for shipment, the entire process occupying but a very few minutes. The method of bottling inspected milk is not quite so elaborate, but every process employed is one of immaculate cleanliness. Each bottle, whether used for certified or inspected milk, has a bath in a solution of sal soda, then is repeatedly rinsed, and stands in boiling water until perfectly sterilized. At one time, milking machines were used, but close examination of the product directly after milking showed that the method was unsanitary. The long rows of splendid cows that stand facing each other are of Holstein and Jersey stock. Great, handsome black and white Holsteins, their skins as soft as that of a baby and as clean as a falling snowflake. Small, dainty-limbed Jerseys, timid as deer, gentle as kittens, all unconscious of the part they are taking in the physical well-being of the world at large. A number of the Holsteins have fine butter records. These butter records are scientifically established by an impartial commission sent out by an agricultural college who, for 7 days, test the milk for butter fat and take the average. From the 60 cows that comprise the herd at Valley View Farm, the average daily milk product is about 1,000 pounds. From the other 2 dairy farms, whose united herds number 220 cows, the daily average product sent to customers reaches 2,800 pounds. The milk of the Holsteins is preferred for certified milk, the Jerseys for the inspected product. Steam power runs the machinery at the farm, being preferable to electric power because it is also used for sterilizing. but all the buildings are lighted by electricity. The current coming through a private wire from the powerhouse at Lebanon. The cool, delicious water furnished the dairy is pumped by an 80-foot windmill from an artesian well to a storage cistern on a hillside, from whence pipes convey it to the residence and big barn, where, between feeding times, it flows constantly through the long stone troughs, and one wonders if it brings to the patient keener memories of cool, sparkling, singing streams gliding through verdant fields, in which in calfhood days they stood when the July sun was hot. For the valley. View herds say goodbye forever to pastures green when they become the property of the dairy, as they are never turned out to graze, but in pleasant weather take daily exercise in large lots or pens, and when the days are forbidding under great sheds, thus avoiding all risk of lung affection to which cows are most inclined. Disinfectants are liberally used around the premises to destroy any and all visiting microbes. The fields of Valley View Farm furnish the ensilage and alfalfa for the herd, but the greater part of the grain feed is purchased. So splendidly is the work systematized that ordinarily it only required about 25 men to attend to all 3 farms. The Valley View place is operated by Mr. Arthur French independently, with Mr. Harold Mangan as his able resident manager. Mr. French also has under his direct control 24 cream stations and 4 milk plants. The quantity of milk and cream that is daily brought to all the country stations under the French management, including those in Kentucky and Indiana, would require many figures to express it. For the milk of 11,000 cows is carried within their doors every 24 hours. The milk plant at Morrow in Warren County is perfectly equipped for the manufacture of condensed milk and milk powder, which are commodities always in demand by the general public. It might be said that the shortening of grain harvests in the Miami valleys, by the turning of fields previously devoted to the cultivation of wheat, barley, etc. into pasture lands, is a financial loss to the district. But this is at once disproved by the satisfaction of the farmers who daily send a truckload of large tin cans to the neighboring milk plant or creamery. The green grass would be speedily plowed under if bank deposits had been lessened by the change. If it may be so expressed, the wonderful French dairy system has had an uplifting influence upon the wide area of country in which their milk stations stand. For while the financial results are extremely gratifying, both to the owners and the contributors, the knowledge that through their united efforts people are furnished with a pure article of food in this day of wide adulteration, and that the pure quality of the dairy product brings strength to the invalid and saves the lives of thousands of little children, is an influence for good that is above any financial estimation. Mr. Arthur French is still a man scarcely touching the line of middle life, and his wonderful executive ability, his conscientious management of a business so vitally connected with the physical well-being of his thousands of customers, places him among the sterling citizenship of Warren County. Instagram, Cincinnati Preservation. This house and barn was part of the French Brothers Dairy in Turtle Creek Township, right next to Lebanon. The house was built in 1817, and the barn buildings were built in the 1910 as part of the French Brothers Dairy. The French Brothers and later French Brothers and Bauer Dairy was one of the largest employers in Warren County during its height of production. Executive Director Beth Johnson visited the farm for a tour and to discuss a preservation easement for the property. A preservation easement will protect the properties in perpetuity.
From Wikipedia, Warren County Canal, Shaker Run wrecks the canal. In 1848, the stream Shaker Run forever damaged the canal. Shaker Run, in western Turtle Creek Township, drained the large swamp on the Shaker settlement at Union Village. The stream frequently jumped its banks and flooded the canal, depositing sediment that required constant dredging and repairs. Finally, Shaker Run broke through the canal's embankment. In 1852, John W. Irwin, the resident engineer of the Miami and Erie Canal, investigated repairs to the canal by direction of the General Assembly, that body having requested an estimate of the cost of repairs and an opinion on whether the canal should be abandoned. He submitted a report to the State Board of Public Works, which estimated $31,613 would be needed to repair the Warren County Canal. Of that sum, $16,196 was needed just for dredging. Because the canal had been little used, the state declined to repair it. In the General Assembly, Representative Durbin Ward of Lebanon introduced legislation to abandon the Lebanon Ditch. In 1854, the state sold the remnants for $40,000 to John W. Corwin and R.H. Henderson. The large stones of the locks were used in local buildings, especially the Lebanon Opera House, which burned on Christmas Day, 1932, and occupied the site of the present Lebanon City Hall at Broadway and Main Street. Other stones were used in the bridge across the North Fork. The reservoir on the North Fork of Turtle Creek collapsed in a violent rainstorm on July 10, 1882, causing much damage in Lebanon, including washing out the bridge on Broadway over Turtle Creek. The site was later taken over by the French Bauer Dairy. After it closed around 1970, the city of Lebanon acquired the land, eventually turning it into Colonial Park.
My friends, let us lift our glasses to Albert French, the dairyman whose hands built more than a business. Through the French Brothers Dairy, he brought honest work, wholesome food and lasting prosperity to Warren County, Ohio. He led with vision, served with kindness, and showed that progress need never lose its heart. To Albert French, may we remember his labor, honor his example, and be inspired by his innovative spirit. My friends and fellow historians, thank you for watching and see you next time. This has been Blue Horse Theatre.
Blue Horse Theatre 2025.